also nostalgic. Those days in 1997, I was one of the strong advocates with many of our colleagues around here to advocate for the establishment of the GET Fund. Before then, tertiary education was largely public funded. Tuition remained free. There was no access even to private tertiary institutions. The Ghana Education Trust Fund has done its part. In the last few years, it has suffered because of the decision of then Minister of Finance to cap it. President Mahama and the Minister of Finance have gone public, and I join them in saying that we will uncap the GET Fund to free additional resources to support robust infrastructure development. Indeed, mathematically, cap GET Fund today is about $3.2 billion Ghana cedis, 3.2 billion Ghana cedis. Uncap it will make available to the Ministry of Education some 7.9 billion, which will accelerate expanded infrastructure. For instance, there are about 2,800 schools that needs to be fixed to deal with the problems of overcrowding. There are about 26,000 schools which has no changing facility for young girls for purposes of hygiene. There are about 780 schools that is required to expand access to junior high school. We will uncap GET Fund. I would engage the Minister for Finance to do this as a matter of expediency, and for the President to engage with the IMF to review the memorandum which included the GET Fund in the negotiations. President Mahama has said that he will review the IMF. So part of the review will be to uncap the GET Fund and free those additional resources to support the country to rely on GET Fund resources to finance education generally, in particular higher education.
So the public school transformation agenda is something that is very dear to the middle class. Honorable Chair, I want to ask my soon-to-be Minister for Education what are his ideas and opinions about making sure that children, all children, have quality public schools to attend, and that if a parent doesn't have the resources, they will not go and look for a loan to send their children to private schools. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, our intervention in the education sector will be all-encompassing. We will give true meaning to the pursuit of free, compulsory, universal basic education. In my reading in the last few days, I have come to appreciate a major dichotomy which needs our urgent critical attention. Rural-urban dichotomy in the quality of education, northern-south dichotomy in the quality of education, and more deprived schools not producing because of quality of teachers and the presence of teachers in those areas. I intend, even when we assume office, to engage the Honorable Minister for Local Government as part of the financial realignment to get him to accept that teacher accommodation can be done by realigning common fund into building those for teachers in the rural areas. I do know that conditions of service generally for workers in the Ghanaian public sector is not the best. I had the privilege in the last few years to be Ghana's Minister for Employment. I did my utmost best to deal with some of the most incipient labor disputes of the country. But nonetheless, the cascading effect of what you do for the teacher, its economic and financial implications for the nurse, the pharmacist, the doctor, is what guides the purse. Therefore, what is in the kitty? We need to improve revenue mobilization generally. And in education, it will be appreciated if, and Parliament members are here, if we can dedicate 20% of national expenditure into education, or allocate at least a minimum of 5 to 6% of GDP to support education, then over a 10-year period, we would have done enough to expand and make these facilities available. At the basic level, and this was my concern, you haven't achieved free compulsory universal basic education, and you have up there a free senior high school education. You will still have in urban areas, Honorable former Minister and Chairman, in the urban areas, the out of school dropout, you see them. In the rural areas, you don't. That's the danger. We also have to be careful that we are not producing unemployed graduates from free senior high school who would become a threat to an unemployable. So that is why Minister hailed some of the TVET initiative, because we have to improve employability. And employability is better done through technical vocational training. We will expand access to all TVET institutions. I'm aware that some of your initiatives were 30, 20, 40%, because you didn't have money because you capped Get Fund. You remember, I don't want the minority leader to look into my eye. So the uncapping didn't free resources for you to be able to expand those TVET institutions. President Mahama and the NDC will complete all those TVET institutions, given respect to the directive principles of state policy, that as president, he has a responsibility to the state to continue every good initiative of the previous government. I thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, the government will have no difficulty at all accepting to work to add boarding facilities where it's necessary. My own personal experience during the campaign was a day I was driving from Yendi towards Miang, and you see a Major E facility on the Miang Road. I saw school girls and boys walking the street from Yendi Kulkwin walking towards that area. That reminded me that if there's any opportunity to add a boarding facility to that, we should do that. And then also in Cherpune and also in Wulesi on the same road, I saw a facility where many of the catchment communities needed that. We would have no difficulty expanding boarding facilities where necessary. Ours is to expand access, ensure relevance and quality delivery by improving the conditions of service of teachers to the best that the economy can do, and to improve their quality through motivation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
With the young politicians from the north, and you serve as inspiration to us from your days as the student leader all the way to your parliamentary responsibility, from being a Minister of Communication, Minister of Employment, and now Trade, and also this. My question to you, Honorable Nominee, one of the biggest challenges in our educational sector is the high drop rate of at the basic level. In the northern region, only 5 out of 10 students who enroll in KG are able to complete primary school, and after that, only 3 are able to complete JSS. Being the first Minister for Education from the northern sector of our country, in the Fourth Republic, what will you do to ensure that we address this issue that the Ghana Education Watch have just identified? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members, and colleague, thanks for those warm compliments. It's important again to recognize that as a country, there is the northern-south divide when it comes to access to education, beginning from 1876, when the first school was established, and subsequently in the north we got ours around 1951. So you can imagine the gap and the deficit. Even Achimota School around 1924, at the time that Tamale Secondary School, which became the first in the north, we will work to close that gap. Indeed, even for the implementation of the free senior high school, it is noted that participation rate is very high in northern Ghana. That explains that probably it is true that poverty was a problem to accessing quality education. So it's quality, equality, and equity. I also note that there's about 5,000 infrastructure deficit when it comes to provision of junior high school, basic schools, and secondary schools in northern Ghana, and also in Oti and western north. The statistics is not too encouraging for them. The urban concept, many in this area have taken full advantage of it. With the rare privilege of the President entrusting me as his Minister for Education, I will work towards equity and improve quality to education at all levels of our country. I would endeavor to close that gap, recognizing that I may have to do some affirmative action interventions to get it going, to correct some of the historical imbalances that are responsible for the deficit. I thank you.